Internal Revenue Service IRS Tax News. Taxpayer Relief Initiative aims to help those financially affected by COVID-19. COVID Tax Tip 2020-158, November 19, 2020. The IRS reviewed its collection activities to see how it could provide relief for taxpayers who owe taxes but are struggling financially because of the pandemic. The agency is expanding taxpayer options for making payments and other ways to resolve tax debt. Taxpayers who owe taxes always had options to get help through payment plans and other tools from the IRS. The new IRS Taxpayer Relief Initiative is expanding on those tools. These revised COVID-related collection procedures will be helpful to taxpayers, especially those who have a record of filing their returns and paying their taxes on time. Here are the highlights of the Taxpayer Relief Initiative. Taxpayers who qualify for a short-term payment plan may now have up to 180 days to resolve their tax liabilities instead of 120 days. The IRS is offering flexibility for some taxpayers who are temporarily unable to meet the payment terms of an accepted offer in compromise. The IRS will automatically add certain new tax balances to existing installment agreements for individual and business taxpayers who have gone out of business. Certain qualified individual taxpayers who owe less than $250,000 may set up installment agreements without providing a financial statement if their monthly payment proposal is sufficient. Some individual taxpayers who only owe for the 2019 tax year and owe less than $250,000 may qualify to set up an installment agreement without a notice of federal tax lien filed by the IRS. Qualified taxpayers with existing direct debit installment agreements may be eligible to use the online payment agreement system to process lower monthly payment amounts and change their payment due dates. Additional tools to assist taxpayers who owe taxes. We have the temporary delaying collection. There's a link to that here. Taxpayers can contact the IRS to request a temporary delay of the collection process. If the IRS determines a taxpayer is unable to pay, it may delay collection until the taxpayer's financial condition improves. Offer in compromise. There's a link to the offer in compromise here. Certain taxpayers qualify to settle their tax bill for less than the amount they owe by submitting an offer in compromise. To help determine eligibility, use the offer in compromise pre-qualifier tool. There's a link to that here. Now the IRS is offering additional flexibility for some taxpayers who are temporarily unable to meet the payment terms of an accepted offer in compromise. So if you're thinking about an offer in compromise, that's usually a situation where the IRS, you have a significant tax bill. That's usually when the tax bill is significant, and you're basically arguing. You can look at the tools here; they're all on the IRS website. You're basically arguing, saying, "Hey, look, IRS, you're not going to get your money because the debt is a lot higher than I'm going to be able to pay given my financial situation." You'd have to provide typically the financial situation, including your monthly income and your balance sheet information, and then and make a determination whether or not to lower the tax debt. Basically, with that argument, you're basically arguing, hey, look, I don't have the means to be paying this bill that you have here. So it's a good idea to look through the resources for the offer in compromise and get an idea of it if it's an option you're considering, and have a good idea of it, and then seek the tax help with it from that point in time. But it's a lot of the information related to it's on the IRS website, so I would go ahead and review it and take a look at it if that's something you're looking into. So relief from penalties. There's a link to relief from penalties here. Reasonable cause assistance. There's a link to that. Is available for taxpayers with failure to pay and deposit penalties. First-time penalty abatement relief, there's a link to that here, is also available for the first time a taxpayer is subject to one or more of these tax penalties. Now, note that if you're paying your taxes on time, or if at the very least you are keeping up with the IRS, you're responding to the notices, you typically have 30 days every time they contact you and whatnot, then you have a better negotiated agreement with the IRS, ability to negotiate with the IRS. That's how they set it up on purpose, of course, so that people that are working with them are more likely to have favorable conditions to be able to work with them. That's kind of how they're the rules will be set up to be working. So if this is the first year that you haven't been able to pay the taxes because of the pandemic and just the weird year here, then what you do not want to do is just start to ignore the IRS and not respond to the letters and whatnot. What you want to do is file the tax return, tell them, hey, I can't pay the taxes, set up an installment agreement, be in good standing with the IRS. That increases your options, and that'll typically lower the penalties and interest. And you can do so with minimal discussion, actually talking with the IRS these days, because a lot of it is online. If you need to do an installment agreement and whatnot, you may be able to set up the thing online and do the whole process there. So it does take some research, but it's worthwhile to do. It's worthwhile to be on top of things. It eases the worry of the IRS if you do it that way. Otherwise, you kind of turn off the IRS for long enough, and it slowly builds up. They send out they send out letters every 30 days, and then at some point the snowball the snowball of the slow bureaucracy takes effect, and action needs to happen. It's better to stay on top of it as you go. So many taxpayers request payment plans, including installment agreements, can apply through irs.gov. There's a link to payment plans here, so you can take a look at those. These types of relief are not automatic. Taxpayers need to request payment relief by contacting the number on their balance due notice and responding in writing.